Hey everyone, ready to dive into a new career path? Today we're tackling Bleacher Operator interviews. And let me tell you, these interviews come with their own set of curveballs.
You got that right. It's not always as straightforward as it seems.
But no worries, we've got RoleCatcher's insights to guide us, and with our expert here, we'll have you prepped and ready to impress. So no more feeling like you're lost in the woods. Let's get you feeling confident and prepared to land that job. Ready to break it down.
Absolutely. I'm excited to equip our listeners with the knowledge and confidence to ace those interviews. Let's do this.
So first things first, when I hear Bleacher Operator, I'll be honest, I'm picturing a stadium, not a paper mill. What's the deal here?
It's a classic case of same name, different game. We're definitely not talking about setting up seating for a sporting event. A bleacher operator in this context is all about the paper industry, specifically making sure that paper pulp reaches that bright white color we're all used to. They're the ones working with chemicals and machinery to make that happen. It's a blend of technical know-how and understanding how different bleaching processes work.
Okay, so not stadium bleachers, but the kind that makes paper bright white. Got it.
Hmm?
So before we even get to the interview, can you paint a picture of the work environment? What's it actually like to be a bleacher operator?
Imagine a large-scale manufacturing setting, think paper mills, with all the sights and sounds that come with it. We're talking big machinery, which means it can be noisy, so hearing protection is a must. Safety is paramount, so you'd be decked out in protective gear following strict protocols to the letter.
Safety first, always. Now let's get down to brass tacks, those interview questions. RoleCatcher gave us 10 common ones for bleacher operators, and some of them threw me for a loop. Are you ready to tackle these one by one and give our listeners some winning strategies?
Absolutely. Let's equip our listener to knock those answers out of the park.
All right, question number 1. Can you tell us about your experience operating bleachers?
Oh boy, here we go again with the bleachers. I know they want me to talk about my experience with industrial equipment, but all I can think about is those rickety metal benches. Help me out here.
I get it, the wording can be tricky, but don't sweat it. Think of it this way. They're looking for proof you can handle the tasks, even if you haven't worked with bleachers directly. Did you operate machinery before? Work with chemicals? Follow strict safety protocols? Maybe in manufacturing, food processing, or even a lab? Those all count.
So it's about connecting the dots for them, showing them I understand the essence of the job, even if the exact wording throws me off. Exactly. And that's where RoleCatcher's AI comes in handy. Their CV resume builder can help you pinpoint and highlight those transferable skills, making sure your resume screams relevant experience.
Love that. Okay, question 2. How do you ensure the safety of spectators when operating bleachers? Okay, now I'm picturing a whole crowd of people on those bleachers, and I'm suddenly responsible for their well-being. How do we translate this to the world of paper and pulp?
Shift gears from a stadium to a manufacturing plant. It's still all about safety, but the hazards are different. We're talking chemical handling, machinery operation, lockout, tagout procedures. Those are your spectators now.
So instead of spectators, I'm thinking colleagues, myself, anyone who could be impacted if something goes wrong during the bleaching process.
Exactly. It's about demonstrating that safety is ingrained in your work ethic, no matter the setting.
And I bet RoleCatcher has resources on this.
You bet. They have modules on workplace safety, especially for paper manufacturing. Think OSHA regulations, industry best practices, you name it. You can even get AI feedback on your safety-related interview responses.
Okay, question 3 throws a real curveball. Have you ever had to deal with an emergency situation while operating bleachers? How did you handle it? Now, I haven't exactly been causing bleacher-related mayhem. How should our listener approach this if they've been lucky enough to avoid major workplace emergencies?
Honesty is key. It's okay to say you haven't faced a major emergency, especially if you're just starting out. But the key is to show you can think on your feet. Talk about how you'd assess the situation, what steps you'd take, who you'd alert, show them you have a plan, even if you haven't had to use it yet.
So it's about demonstrating that I'm not going to freeze up if something goes wrong, even if I don't have a dramatic story to tell.
Precisely. And if you've had any relevant training, first aid, fire safety, anything like that, mentioning those certifications adds weight to your answer.
Great advice. On to question 4. How do you maintain bleachers to ensure their longevity? I swear, I'm picturing myself with a wrench in those metal benches again.
Your mind is still stuck on those stadium seats, but you're on the right track with maintenance. Think about it. Bleaching equipment needs TLC too. Regular cleaning, inspections for wear and tear, reporting any malfunctions, it's all part of the job.
So instead of tightening bolts on bleachers, I'm making sure the bleaching equipment is in top shape to prevent any costly downtime or quality issues.
Now you're getting it. It shows you're proactive and understand that maintaining equipment is crucial for a smooth operation.
All right, question number 5. This one's interesting. How do you manage your time when setting up bleachers for an event? Okay, I'm sensing a theme here, but how does setting up bleachers even relate to what a bleacher operator does in a paper mill?
It's all about making that mental leap, right? Think of the bleaching process like an event itself. Each stage has to happen in sequence, chemicals need careful monitoring, adjustments might be needed on the fly. It's about juggling it all without missing a beat.
So instead of rushing to get those bleachers ready for the big game, I'm managing my time to make sure each batch of pulp is processed perfectly.
Exactly. They want to know you can handle the pressure, prioritize tasks, and keep things moving smoothly in a fast-paced environment.
Should I throw in some specific time management techniques? Would mentioning things like checklists or timers make a difference?
Absolutely. It shows you're organized and proactive. You could say, to stay on top of everything, I'd create a daily checklist of the different bleaching stages and their requirements. And I definitely use timers to keep those chemical dwell times precise.
Love it, specific and relevant. Okay, question 6 is a head scratcher. How do you ensure that bleachers are ADA compliant? I get that accessibility is important, but how do we even apply that to bleaching wood pulp?
It's a good catch. ADA compliance itself might not directly apply here, but the principle does. It's about understanding and following regulations and standards.
So showing them I'm not just blindly following rules, but I get why those rules are in place, whether it's ADA or environmental regulations or safety protocols for handling chemicals.
Exactly. It shows you're responsible and aware of the bigger picture. You could even mention specific regulations relevant to the paper industry, like the EPA's Clean Water Act or OSHA standards for hazardous chemicals.
Now that you mention it, I hadn't even considered the environmental aspect of bleaching. It's not just about making paper white, it's about doing it responsibly too.
Precisely. And RoleCatcher can be your secret weapon here. They've got a whole section on industry-specific compliance, even location-based regulations, which is amazing.
Okay, question 7 is giving me déjà vu. How do you ensure that bleachers are set up safely and securely for an event? Are we back to the bleachers again?
It seems we are. But once again, the core concept is safety. Instead of physical bleachers, you're ensuring the bleaching equipment is safe to operate.
So it's those lockout procedures, making sure everything's in tip-top shape before I even think about starting the process, right?
Spot on. And don't forget personal protective equipment, mentioning gloves, goggles, respirators. That shows them you're serious about safety on all levels.
Safety first, always. All right, question 8 feels familiar too. How do you ensure that bleachers are set up in compliance with local and state regulations? We've kind of touched on this, haven't we?
We have. It goes back to those regulations and compliance. Just like with ADA requirements, local and state regulations can impact how a paper mill operates.
So doing some research on those local regulations beforehand is a must. What kind of things should I be looking for specifically?
Definitely. Check for any permits needed to run a paper mill or handle certain chemicals in that area. Look into environmental regulations on air and water quality. And don't forget about zoning laws. They can be surprising.
Ow, who knew prepping for a bleacher operator interview would require so much research?
It's all about showing them you're not just looking for any job, but you're invested in this specific field. And guess what? RoleCatcher's AI can actually help with this too. It can dig up location-specific regulations and even suggest relevant questions to ask during the interview.
Talk about a game changer. Okay, 2 more to go. Question 9 has me stumped. How do you ensure that bleachers are set up to accommodate the expected number of spectators? I'm drawing a blank on how spectators translates to the world of paper production.
Think of it this way. Instead of spectators, you have production goals. Just like you need enough seats for everyone at an event, you need to make sure the bleaching process can handle the required volume of pulp.
So it's about understanding those production targets, anticipating any potential bottlenecks, and making sure the bleaching process can keep up without sacrificing quality.
Exactly. It shows you're a big picture thinker, focused on efficiency and meeting those production demands. You're not just focused on your little corner of the operation.
Makes sense. Okay, last but not least, question 10 feels a bit more straightforward. How do you interact with event organizers and other staff when setting up bleachers for an event? This one's all about teamwork and communication, right?
You nailed it. Communication is key in any industrial setting. For a bleacher operator, it's about clear communication during shift changes, relaying info to supervisors, coordinating with maintenance. It's a team effort.
So instead of event organizers, I'm thinking about my colleagues, supervisors, and other departments within the paper mill.
Exactly. Highlight those soft skills, active listening, clear communication, and being a team player. Those are gold in any work environment.
Couldn't agree more. Wow, we've covered so much ground today. I feel like I've not only learned a ton about being a bleacher operator, but I've also got some killer interview strategies up my sleeve now.
It's amazing what a little perspective shift and the right guidance can do.
Speaking of guidance, RoleCatcher deserves a standing ovation for providing such comprehensive resources. Their AI and industry-specific modules are invaluable for anyone navigating the job search jungle.
Couldn't agree more. They've really upped the game for job seekers.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, there are a few more gems from RoleCatcher's career guide that I think would be super valuable for our listeners, especially when it comes to carving out a successful career path. Ready to dive into those?
Always up for sharing some career insights. What do you have in mind?
So we've talked about acing the interview and landing the job, but what about the long game? What does building a successful career as a bleacher operator actually look like?
It's a journey, not a destination. The paper industry, especially the tech behind bleaching, is always changing. To really thrive, you've got to be a lifelong learner.
So it's not a learn it once and you're good kind of field. What are some practical ways to stay ahead of the curve in this role?
Oh, there are tons. Online courses are a goldmine for staying updated on the latest techniques and tech in bleaching. Industry workshops and conferences are also great. You can learn from the pros and network with other folks in the field.
Networking, always a good move, no matter what you do. And I bet some companies offer on-the-job training or even help pay for further education.
You're right on the money. Many paper mills have programs to help their employees move up. Don't be shy, ask about those opportunities during your interview. It shows you're thinking ahead.
Love that proactive approach. It tells them you're in it for the long haul. Speaking of which, what does a typical career path look like for a bleacher operator?
Well, as you gain experience, you'll likely move from an entry-level role to a junior bleacher operator. More responsibility, maybe overseeing a specific part of the bleaching process, even training new hires.
That experience would be invaluable for climbing that ladder. What's after junior operator?
Next up is often senior bleacher operator. At that level, you're the expert deep knowledge of the whole process, from A to Z. You might be troubleshooting tricky problems, fine-tuning the process, making sure the final product is top-notch.
So you become the go-to person, the one everyone depends on. Pretty cool.
It's challenging but rewarding. You're part of creating something that's used every day. And let's not forget about the salary potential stuff. Senior bleacher operators, especially those with extra certifications, can earn a good living.
That's definitely something to keep in mind during those salary negotiation conversations. We've covered training, career paths, even salary here. What other skills are key for success as a bleacher operator? What separates the good from the great?
Problem solving is a must-have. You're dealing with sophisticated equipment and chemical reactions. Things can and will go wrong. Being able to think fast, figure out the issue, and find a solution is crucial.
So it's not just about knowing the technical stuff. You've got to be a bit of a detective too.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the importance of being a team player. The bleaching process involves a lot of moving parts, so you'll be working closely with colleagues, supervisors, other departments.
Collaboration is key.
Yeah.
And that circles back to those communication skills we talked about before. Being able to communicate clearly and respectfully is essential, whether you're explaining a technical issue or just giving someone an update.
Totally agree. And that's something I appreciate about RoleCatcher. They don't just focus on the technical skills. They've got resources for developing those essential soft skills that are so valuable in any career.
They've really thought of everything, from building a killer resume to rocking those interview questions and even navigating your career path. RoleCatcher's got your back. And hey, we're here for you too.
Absolutely. We've given you the knowledge and tools to feel prepped and confident for your interview. Now it's your time to shine.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Remember, practice those interview answers, use those awesome RoleCatcher resources, and most importantly, believe in yourself. You've got this. This has been an awesome deep dive into the world of bleacher operators. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those career goals high.